Hello and welcome. My name is DraganaBeara, and I'm a Global Messaging Director from Dell Technologies. I'm here to talk to you about emerging technologies that are going to drive the future of education. So let's begin by showing you our vision of what education may look like in the next 10 to 20 years, enabled through emerging technologies that we're going to discuss today.
Hey Mom, sorry I haven't been in touch. I've been kind of busy studying and stuff. I want to tell you about this cool project I've been working on. It's really helped me figure out what I like. I'm sure Dad will be pleased to hear that. You know how I love design and biology? Well, it's about designing this aquaponics system. I talked it over with Mr. Lawson. He's cool for a teacher. He pointed out how the project would help me do better in some courses that I'm kind of struggling with and how it really fits in with what I want to do. This mentor software shows you that too, but it really helps talking it through. You can pick your own lectures, which is great. The system recommends courses that support the project. Some of the concepts are a bit too advanced for me, but it can even tell when I'm confused too. It slows the pace of the lecture right down and suggests more reading. It also helps me organize my thoughts and link me to other students so we can compare notes. This girl from South Africa showed us their work. They built a prototype. Super cool, but when I saw it, I immediately had some ideas on how to make it better. The rest of the team did as well. Everybody was working on their own piece of research. We have biology, chemistry, and engineering students, and I, as the designer, I did my thing. I created a design for the system filter and pump that's generated based on all the research from these guys. You'd be proud of me, Mom. This school is like a high-tech lab where you get to build insane things. And they have the equipment to build and test it as well. We really made some cool findings, Mom. With these AR glasses, I could look around the aquarium and see how our new filter design was creating a better living environment for the fish. And the system has a record of everything we've done. I simply gather the right stuff and turn it into a report. And you remember how I used to get nervous presenting in front of people? Well, this system responds to things I'm saying and shows them on a huge screen. It even fills in the blanks. It gets me excited to learn and master these things. It's quite a new experience. Everyone online loved the presentation and it really boosted my profile. I'm getting loads of new opportunities now and they're really exciting. I feel like I'm really finding myself. Anyway, I gotta go, Mom. Say hi to Dad for me.
So this video was recorded in 2017, and it was designed by our Experience Innovation Group. Nobody knew that COVID is going to strike this year, and nobody knew that close to 87% of the global student body will have to work from home, or that people will have to work from home, and that this joint working, teaching, learning experience is going to coincide and overlap in people's homes. So what is the outcome of all that? Let's take a look at the data decade that's ahead of us, really. And data is the fuel that will power digital transformation. So that's why we call this the data decade. What happened is that overnight, we have seen many organizations significantly accelerate their digital transformation. We have seen the world respond and show how technology can create opportunities we haven't even thought about before. And also, the question is, are we ready for what's next? And what is the next that's coming that we need to anticipate for? So one of the things that I'm hoping to do here today is show you in a short term how you can adjust to this immediate next and how to look into the future for the longer term next that you will need to structure your systems for, you will need to structure your schools for, your learning anywhere, as well as the curriculum that is going to educate the leaders of tomorrow. I think there's a pretty big ask on yourselves as educators, whether you're an administrator, teacher, even a parent or a student. What is your opportunity to contribute for the brightest future we can have? So I looked at the survey that has just recently been published a few days ago on Educator Online. And this study was done to assess how Australian teachers and administrators feel post first wave of COVID in terms of how the experience went, what the pros were and what the cons were. So 83% of participants in this survey agreed that online learning is enabling students to take ownership of their learning journey, which is really actually great news. The key point for students of today is really not so much about what they learn, but really how they learn and how they lead on that journey for themselves so that they can be able to respond to what future brings them. 71% believe that aspects of online learning can improve educational delivery. And that is also good because we know that sometimes immersive experiences can reinforce learning much, much more than just reading a piece of paper. Now, on the flip side, 62% indicated working from home has increased levels of stress and anxiety, which is not surprising. And I'm sure that if they've asked parents as part of this survey, this number would be even higher. And 84 indicated that their workload has increased since moving to online learning, with 63% stating that the increase has been significant. And I can totally believe that because not only are parents, teachers, just teachers, a great group of them are parents as well, and they had to juggle those responsibilities, plus learn new systems or adjust their curriculum to the new systems. And that was a pretty incredible task that everybody has gone through and some really, really heavy lifting. So hopefully we're over that first hump. What was interesting about Australia is that there were such disparate numbers in how many kids were attending school during the first phase of COVID. And for example, in Victoria, only 3% were attending school, while in Northern Territories, 79% returned to normal levels of school attendance, which is quite a big disparate gap. So how does the school system respond to all that? And we think we have an answer. We think that the approach to digital schooling should be the same as approach to digital workplace, because we have spent years trying to create digital workplace for DAL and innovate. And we're happy to share some of the best practices in this presentation, as well as point to a few opportunities that you may be able to capitalize on right away. So there are really, three elements if you think about the technology, because teachers have thought that technology is something that's going to enable the students and themselves to perform better. So delivering new experiences to end users and administrators and teachers and parents is really, really key. Using data that gets created from these online interactions, because every time we do anything online, we generate large amounts of data, which now the schools and school boards can really capitalize on and get much, much deeper insights into the opportunities for improvement and perhaps some new solutions that were not created before. And also the key point is to deploy software and devices and infrastructure in a seamless and secure and responsible manner, because of course enabling this anywhere school means that people are literally going to be anywhere, and so security is one of the paramount things to consider, as well as easy access and ability to basically democratize schooling for everyone and not have advantages for some groups over the others. So that's really the beginning of some of the things that I want to share in terms of best practices. So what is the first step? The first step is, of course, what anything is to create a cohesive plan. And this actually slide looked quite different when we talk about workforce transformation to what I had to modify to make it suit education. In the regular workplace, we typically will say that 3 organizations at the very minimum need to work together to craft this digital workplace. But for a digital school, there's a bit of a different group. I mean, in addition to having HR and facilities and IT work together, we also need to consider administrators, we need to consider teachers and organizations that are looking after students and parent experiences as well. And then looking at the digital school is something that will be happening in person as well as online. And again, making sure that those online and physical experiences jive and work together. So that if a student is not in school, they will not have a significantly less satisfying or less effective experience versus the students who are in a classroom. How do we do that? And that really all kind of boils down to looking at the student and teacher experience. So we need to look at the individual, we need to look at the team, and we also need to look at how IT experiences this rollout. So in the context of the school's digital school, we will basically look at a student, but we're also going to have to look at administrator. We're going to have to look at the parent as well as the teacher as 4 distinct user experiences that need to be good for people to adopt new technologies that you roll out to them. We also need to realize that these individual personas are going to come together in physical and virtual environments to achieve specific tasks. And then those different team experiences need to also work well together. And of course, depending whether it's a teacher student or teacher administrator or teacher parent or student and parent, those are all different combinations and permutations of teams that will basically be formed at any time, because till this year, most of the student and teaching activity happen in schools. Most of the meetings happen in school. Actually, we're coming up now for my kids to have a parent-teacher meeting. And I'm actually wondering whether I'm guessing we're gonna have an online meeting, which is actually quite convenient because I always wondered why we need to travel to school to talk to the teacher. But I think that, again, we're going to be re-envisioning all of those experiences and creating a much more flexible version of them. It doesn't go to say that I'm not going to go to my kids' school at some point in time, but it just means that the location should not be an impediment to that interaction. And then finally, what is the IT experience with rolling this out? Because IT, as the biggest stakeholder of technology and an organization that's making sure that all of these experiences are rolling out properly, they also need to have a positive experience. If they end up having security breaches, if they end up having a lot of people calling on them and filing tickets and them having to continuously respond to the new deployment and user dissatisfaction, they themselves are not going to support new rollouts. So it's really important to also offer self-provisioning for the users and self-service for the users so that we can unload that component of a rollout from IT and give them an opportunity to innovate and not just do firefighting with the users. So how do you begin in terms of the questions with your plans? There are a few right questions that you can start considering. Things like, is your school technology able to integrate with what the new technology needs to be implemented to make this new experience reality? What is the gap there? Is there technology, what technology is needed to enable better learning and teaching while still remaining secure? Because again, security is a huge aspect once you start going online for everyone, for the school board information and data, for student information and data, for teachers as well. So whenever you start building something out, you'll have to really begin with security as a cornerstone of whatever project you do. Can every student and teacher connect to information and tools that they need, regardless of whatever device they're using or location. I think that's quite important, especially considering the difference in economic circumstances of different students. And that I know that's been a big impediment for a lot of schools going online very quickly. Are students or teachers able to effectively collaborate, which I already talked about a bit, they have the right technology for the location and whatever activity they're doing? And do your current technology solutions support or hinder the digital schooling? Because that's something that will have to get evaluated. And at Dell Technologies, we actually have a practice that helps people level set and basically educate all the stakeholders about the implications of going digital. And we facilitate this kind of questioning. We help you build some kind of a roadmap of what makes sense for you. So that's something that we definitely take a lot of pride in doing and help a lot of people with that initial strategy phase, in addition to selling all the technology and everything else that we make. Another thing that's really important is to, as I mentioned before, you need to understand your personas. And who are personas? Personas are people who are participating in the learning and teaching and administration process. So having too few personas, and why do we need personas? Personas are needed so that we can understand what their requirements are in order to prescribe the device, applications, security, workplace, if we're going to provide that. So all of that needs to match the person's activity, their personality, their KPIs that they need to achieve, and so on. So having too few personas is not going to meet the requirements. Having too many will introduce a lot of complexity. But picking out just the right amount for your school district or your school is really, really important. So typically, if I were to just, as somebody who's not an education professional, to point out of the obvious ones, there is definitely students, there's teachers, there's administrators, there are parents, and perhaps there's some specialty courses that require technology support. Maybe there's some courses where you need to roll out immersive technologies like augmented and virtual reality. And so for those, you may need different technology and different enablement. And so those are sort of outliers that need to be considered and rationalized whether they're really in that 80-20 scenario part of the 80% that gets addressed. So moving on, let's look at what a digital school platform would look like, because this is not something that we pre-built. This is not something that we pre-integrated. The first view that you see as I click once, it's really the view that our IT organization created when they were starting to structure Dell Technologies Connected Workplace Program. And so for those of you who don't know, Dell Technologies is actually one of the global leaders in a connected workplace program, and we have pioneered remote work since 2009. We have created together between our HR, IT, and facilities organizations a workplace that was conducive to people being remote or present or completely remote as opposed to being mobile. So part of that activity was creating a platform that will support the technology needs. So that platform consists of 6-7 elements, and the primary one, it's obvious for us as a device maker, is the devices. So what devices are going to be used for productivity? A lot of people use laptops. Some people actually have on-site PCs just for the security purpose. Perhaps they can take some data home. There's also a VDI solution that could solve that and still enable those people to work from home. There are a lot of wearables that are entering the workplace, and a lot of students on top of the employees in school are bringing a lot of devices for learning and for their personal reasons. So having a device strategy, or maybe bring your own device strategy, is quite important, and that really this user access element facilitates. So enabling students to securely access the student network, allowing the administrators and teachers to use perhaps the same network or another one, giving everybody an opportunity to get enough bandwidth and quality of service is really important, and giving everybody an opportunity to log into all the systems that they need to log into safely and securely, so that they can be, again, as productive as they can. Connectivity is a big piece, and that's something that, of course, has been, I think, something that schools have dealt with for some time now, monitoring and management as well. And then looking at role-based applications in data is also another thing that perhaps might have not been done as much in schools. I'm not really sure how much software development Australian school boards have done for themselves in order to develop maybe some new applications that students or staff can use. Probably most of it was off the shelf. But we also encourage organizations to consider, in specific circumstances, creating some applications that may streamline workflows or enable specific activities better for that organization, because what happens is that actually gives you a bit more of a competitive advantage, whether that's with respect to your customer experience, like students and parents, or employee experience, like administrators and teachers. And of course, all of that needs to run on some kind of a platform, and we expect the majority of organizations are going to have some kind of hybrid cloud platform strategy in place. And that really kind of rounds out, from the technology standpoint, elements that play into this digital school platform. Now, fortunately, we actually make most of this equipment. And so I have overlaid logos of various companies that contribute to these different elements. And if I click one more time, you will see that we also offer services as well as the partner ecosystem that will augment anything that we're not able to provide, so that you can have the most complete solution that is provided by a single player. We also, I already mentioned, have now smart devices out there. So for example, your school may become a smart school, and you're going to have a lot of IoT sensors around to monitor environmental factors, to perhaps monitor also the crowding, where different groups congregate, what is the sentiment of those students, both for security and just general quality of teaching perspective. So those devices are also generating data that need to be brought into this platform. So looking at connectivity beyond just networking, and connectivity such as 5G is also important. I hope that this slide has really given you an appreciation of the functional elements of something that's required to build a digital school platform from the technology standpoint. Now, I mentioned that emerging technologies are going to drive the future of education. I've shown you this video at the beginning. So let's take a look at some of the technologies that we think are going to be key. We think that artificial intelligence will probably be one of the most and immediately transformational technologies that have already entered our lives. I mean, most of you have Alexa or Siri or Cortana. There are a lot of personal assistants that have been leveraged by us in our personal lives, but there's going to be a lot more to come from the workplace standpoint, and perhaps also from the learning support standpoint. Multimodal interfaces. So far we've been able to interact with our computers by typing. We all became really great typists, but that's not something that is natural to human being. We're starting to train, because of AI, actually, our technology to understand us in much the same way as other human beings do. So body language, gestures, eye tracking, voice commands, all of that is becoming a reality rapidly to enable our interface and interaction with this digital world. I mentioned sensors and IoT and what their purpose is, to basically help things that are in our environment provide us with more digital information, so that we can either control them, observe them, and manipulate them through the digital realm. Extended reality and immersive media are huge for training as well as education. I think you saw at the beginning of the video, there was a lot of augmented reality superimposed in the learning process of the student who's writing his mother a letter. And secure distributed ledgers will probably help with ease of administration as you move forward, and even allow you to perhaps source teachers outside of Australia if you have to, and employ them without significantly, significant difficulties and middlemen. Now let's talk. Let's just flash here quickly the statement from Gartner that by 2024, and that's not too far away, it's only 4 years from now, everyday AI services will be essential and largely invisible element in our daily work activities. I think that's true. And there are a few things that need to be done in order to make the most out of it. First of all, some people need to make AI. And for making of AI, it's really important to be aware of data bias, aware of algorithmic biases, and make sure that they don't get into your programs. If you're a user of AI, you need to understand AI. You need to be AI literate and able to get the most out of that interaction. So let me play you a quick video that we have created from the research that we've done to understand what the vision of the world will be by 2030.
Today's workforce is transforming rapidly. New possibilities and challenges are on the horizon. That's why we surveyed 3,800 business leaders from around the world to forecast the next decade. According to many, it's time to invest in a different set of skills that will be vital in 2030. Skills like creative thinking, logic, emotional intelligence, technological literacy, and objective judgment. We may not know what the future will look like, but with the right foresight and education, you can ensure a stronger tomorrow for your workforce.
The kids of today are the workforce of tomorrow, and they are definitely the ones who are going to help us with some of the constraints that we have today, where our research also states that 90% of organizations are facing a significant emerging technology skills shortage. And of that, 55% are actually facing significant AI skills gap. And that's really serious if we think that by 2024, AI is going to permeate all of this. Now, I know that kids today are much more comfortable with AI. My son loves to talk to his Siri while I turn it off. But the thing is that even the teachers of today and administrators of today need to become much more technologically savvy and aware of all of these opportunities and things that are going to be impacting our life in the future, so that they themselves can become more comfortable and able to teach the next generation. And the reason for that is that there's going to be the talent war coming up. There's a giant talent gap that was flagged in the US. Now, these numbers are generally based like the 45% of jobs that will be filled based on the US graduation rates in a few years are really US numbers. But the point is that 55% of these STEM jobs are not going to be filled. So where are the US companies going to go for to find this new resources? They're going to go global. They're going to start seeking the employees all over the place. They're going to be providing the tools and programs to allow global workforce to add value to their companies. So what's one thing I tell people here in APJ is that we really have to start realizing the reality of the importance of being technologically and AI literate and savvy, and that there's going to be the expansion of the corporate world in seeking of talent. And if we want to get the best of the talent that's in our area and that we have actually educated through our own school systems, it's very, very important to be able to create the right conditions for that talent to want to stay at home, to want to work with the local companies. And part of that is giving them the right tools and the right knowledge and the right motivation to remain productive within their native country. So with that, we're nearing the end of this presentation. I wanted to thank you for your attention and invite you to talk to your Dell representative and see how we can help you enable work and learn from anywhere. We offer personalized and productive user experiences regardless of where you are. We offer secure and agile infrastructure to empower your remote workers. And we are the technology partner and trusted ally who can actually deliver all of it. We always thrive in sharing our best practices and experiences. So we invite you also to inquire on our executive briefing center programs that go in much more depth than some of these topics and can be quite enriching, not just for IT, but also for other stakeholders on this journey to digital school. Thank you.